Sarah and I are accent and dialect coaches, and what that means is that on a daily basis, we train people to speak with a different accent. That's what we do, and that's the perspective from which we're going to speak to you all today. So we're not phoneticians, we're not TEFL teachers, but we are people who work on a daily basis with accents and perception. So we're hoping that our perspective will be something a little bit unusual and hopefully interesting for all of you.
So, it's not what you say, but the way that you say it. We've decided to use this saying for our talk as we want to look at the power of accents today. Over 100 years ago, George Bernard Shaw wrote in his play Pygmalion about accent and class, "It is impossible for an Englishman to open his mouth without making some other Englishman hate or despise him." A lot has changed since then, but we're curious to find out whether or not that quote still stands today. So we'd like to start by asking you all a quick question. Everyone in the room and everyone online, do you feel that you have an accent? Please raise your hand.
Okay, right, interesting. So we've got sort of probably over 50% of the people in the room raising their hands. Not sure what the poll results online are saying. But what's really interesting to us is that not everybody is raising their hand in response to that question. And Sarah and I would argue that everybody in the world has got an accent. But we might be being a little bit unfair because we haven't defined what it is that we mean when we ask if you've got an accent. So what is an accent? The very simple definition that we're going to take here is an accent is the way that you pronounce the words you say. So by that definition, anybody that's saying words out loud has got an accent.
Now, your accent is different from your dialect, which is the words that you choose to use. So, for example, I could say small child, but I could also say a wee bairn. They have the same meaning, they're just different words, and that's me using my dialect.
And an accent's something different from that because it's just the way that you shape the sounds that are in the words you say. So, for example, in an Edinburgh accent, I pronounce that word that's written there better. But if I go a few miles west and I land up in Glasgow city centre, I might pronounce that word better or something like that. So what's happened is the way I'm saying the word itself has changed. The T sound in the middle has disappeared. It's become replaced by a glottal stop. And the R on the end has changed its shape a little bit as well.
So your accent is determined by a combination of lots of different factors. The most obvious one is your geography, and that's how we usually think about accents, as being linked to specific places. We talk about American accents, about Italian accents, Manchester accents. Age is another important factor in that. Think about wherever you're from. Perhaps 17-year-olds speak quite differently to how a 70-year-old speaks. But accents contain so much more information than just age and geography. They're your identity. It's like your accent is coding an oral fingerprint, containing a lot of information that you're giving away immediately to people that you're speaking to. For example, places that you've spent a lot of time. Perhaps you spent a lot of time away from the place that you grew up. How your parents spoke to you at home. Whether you speak any different languages. What school you went to. Maybe you're from the city or the countryside.
And all of those bits of information get crystallised into a set of muscle habits. Because that's what your voice is. It's just a muscular process. And your accent is determined by the way that those muscles are working. It's a subconscious thing. That's why you just speak. You don't think about what your accent is or how the sounds are going to come out. They just come out. So before we can kind of explain the way that an accent is changed, we need to speak a little bit about how the muscles of your body produce your voice. So we're going to skip over to a little diagram here of the upper body. And I'm going to ask you to participate a little bit as I explain to you about the way that your voice works. So, if I were to ask you all to say your name out loud in the room, what would be the first thing that you'd have to do in order to say your name? Yeah, you'd breathe in, right? So you take a breath in. We can see on the picture here the little arrow pointing into the mouth, air moving in, down into the lungs. And what would be the second thing? Yeah, so you'd have to breathe out, right? That would be the second part of the process. And the air, as it leaves your lungs, that is the power that's going to produce your voice. As the air travels up, it passes through your voice box, which is labelled number 3 on the diagram here, your voice box or your larynx. And so that's located where the Adam's apple is for men, or the same place for women, it's just a bit less prominent. And inside there, what you've got is a pair of really teeny tiny muscles called the vocal folds, which are very small. They're about the size of your little fingernail. But those are the muscles that are doing all the work of producing the sound. So let's just have a bit of a experience of this. If everybody wants to put their hand on their larynx, that's it, very good. Can't see you on the live stream, but you better be doing it. And if everybody just wants to hum. Very good. Can you feel vibration under your hand? Yeah? That's your vocal folds vibrating. They're sending the air molecules from your lungs into vibration, creating sound. And so from there, the sound travels up into the vocal tract. And that's just the space above your larynx. And this is the area where your accent's going to really be formed. It's the muscles in this space that are going to be responsible for making your accent. So, and we don't really often think about these things as even being muscles, right? We don't really have much awareness that we've got control over them, but we do. So let's go through what the main articulators are. The first one is going to be your lips. So if everybody wants to flash me a beautiful smile. Wonderful. And a very serious frown. Good. And a confused face. Good. Fantastic. So you're using the muscles of your lips there to convey those different emotions and making all those different shapes. You can feel that they're muscles at work. That's one of your articulators. The second and most important one is going to be the tongue. So I'm not going to make you all show me your tongues. You can if you'd like to. But yeah, so your tongue is going to be the most important articulator responsible for forming your accent. So if we can all take the tip of the tongue and lift it up so that it touches the back of your top teeth. And with your tongue, we're going to find the other articulators here. So you can feel your teeth already, and they're an important articulator for making sound. And then if you slide your tongue up and back gently, very slowly, you're going to feel a little shelf, first of all, and that's your alveolar ridge, your gum ridge. It's an important place for articulation. Keep going backwards, and you're going to feel that the dome gets a lot steeper. It's like a big arch in there, and that's your hard palate. You can see it labelled there. Keep going back, don't choke, just go back very slowly and gently with the tip of your tongue, and you're going to feel the texture change. It's going to become soft and fleshy, and that's your soft palate. And relax. So those are your main articulators, and it's the habits that the muscles there contain which are going to really determine what your accent is. So that's just a little picture of the lips for you to show that the picture really is even more complicated than that. There are so many little tiny muscles determining even the movements of the lips. And here's a picture of the front of the face. We can see there are 43 groups of muscles which are going to be responsible for producing very subtle differences in the sounds that you're producing in your accent. And we couldn't finish without showing you a picture of the tongue, because it is such an amazing, complex group of muscles here, and so much bigger than we think, always. So if you take your thumbs and you just put them underneath your chin, that's it. And then if you lift the tip of your tongue up again to your hard palate and push it up, as you push the tip of your tongue up, you should feel something pushing back against your hands underneath here. That's your tongue. We don't often think about the tongue being quite as big as that, but you can see here it's actually filling this whole space. It's a lot of muscle. It's able to hold a lot of habits, and we're probably not even aware that anything's happening there. And look around the room. Everybody has got the same basic equipment. Yeah, they've all got mouths, they've all got lips. They might not be showing you their tongues, but they're in there. But we're willing to bet that there are a lot of different accents in this room. And it's just because you've got different muscle habits. You're doing different things with the same basic equipment. If you yourselves had been born in a different place, you'd still have the mouth that you've got right now, but you'd have a different accent. And it's because of the muscle habits that have been formed by all those conditions that Sarah explained.